Hi, this is Dave from Priority Bicycles, and today we're going to assemble your new L-Train disc. Now, before we get started, it's important to know that we recommend you have your bicycle professionally assembled by a local bike shop. If you're choosing to follow this video instead and do home assembly, we recommend that you have a professional bicycle mechanic safety check the bike before riding. Now, to get started, you're going to need a pair of household scissors or a pair of diagonal cutters to cut open the box, remove the bicycle and all the protective packaging. Once you've removed all the protective packaging, let's remove everything from the accessory box. Inside your accessories box, you'll find a variety of owner's manuals. First, stop and read your owner's manuals in their entirety. You'll find a rear reflector, right and left pedals marked both on the pedal themselves and at the pedal axle. You'll find the skewer for the front wheel, a 15mm wrench, a 4, 5, and 6mm Allen wrench. To begin, let's take your 4mm wrench and install the handlebars. To begin with, make sure your handlebars are facing the front of the bike. Now take a look at your fork. They should be pointed slightly forward with the disc brake on the non-drive side facing the rear. Doing so should put your stem facing backwards. So let's start by straightening your stem. You're going to need the 5mm or middle size Allen wrench. Loosen the pinch bolts on each side. Turn the stem forward while holding the fork straight. So again, you're going to hold the fork straight, turn the stem forward. We'll come back and tighten these later. For now, take your 4mm Allen wrench and remove the faceplate from the stem. Grab your handlebars, and before you completely put it in the stem, check your cable routing. Your left side front brake cable should come around the left side of the bike. Your right side rear brake cable should go from the right side of the bike around to the left side of the top tube. The gear cable should come from the right side of the bike down to the rear side of the down tube. All of these cables should have a nice smooth arch. Once your cables are correct, hold the handlebars in place with the knurled part of the handlebar in the center. Using your 4mm Allen, give equal tension to all 4 bolts. Make sure all 4 bolts are equally tightened. As they get finger tight, you'll want to give additional tension in a star-like pattern. Make sure the handlebar's centered. I like to have my brakes around a 10 o'clock position, and tighten. You're looking for 7 to 8 Newton meters of torque on each bolt. You'll see a slight gap on the top that should be an equal sized gap on the bottom between the faceplate and the stem. Continue tightening in a star-like pattern until the desired torque is reached. Using a household screwdriver, affix the front reflector. You'll need to loosen it a little bit, slide it all the way towards the stem, and then tighten. Now let's move on to installing your front wheel. Your L-Train ships with a solid axle to protect the fork. Using the 15mm wrench that comes with the bike, lift up the bike and unscrew the axle on both sides. Once unscrewed, it'll pop right out. Also, by the front brake, you'll see a tab. Go ahead and remove it. Be careful now to not depress the front brake until the wheel has been installed. With the solid axle removed and the brake tab removed, let's move on to the front wheel. Grab your front wheel. On each side, there's a black protective end cap. On the non-disc side, a small one, and on the disc side, a large one. Pull both those off. Now grab your skewer, pushing to each side one of the springs. One side uses the 5mm Allen wrench. On the other side, there's a nut. Remove the nut and spring. Using the Allen wrench side, slide the skewer through the non-disc brake side. On the disc brake side, install the spring with the thin side towards the disc brake rotor and screw on the nut just a few turns. Now grab the wheel and with the disc rotor on the non-drive side of the bike, lift up the front of the bike and install the wheel into the fork, making sure that your brake rotor goes between the pads. Putting even pressure down on the bike so that the wheel sits properly in the dropout, start tightening the skewer. You'll want to hold the nut side with your hand as you tighten. As this gets tighter, you'll want to change orientation of the wrench. Make sure and get your wheel very tight. Tightening the skewer should leave an indentation in the palm of your hand. With the wheel snug, let's put down the kickstand. Now, lift up the bike and spin the wheel. If your disc is rubbing, watch our video on disc brake alignment. With your kickstand down, now let's move on to installing the pedals. Starting with your right pedal, which has an R sticker on it and an R on the end of the axle, if you have a dab of grease, put a dab of grease onto the pedal threads. Then, start installing your pedal. The right or drive side pedal is standard threading, so you'll turn it clockwise. Use your wrench, and once it gets finger tight, make sure and put a lot of torque into the wrench. You're going to want to put enough torque in that the wrench leaves a good indentation in the palm of your hand. Getting your pedals tight is very important. Now let's move on to the left pedal. The left pedal is reverse threaded. This means you're going to turn counterclockwise. Similar to the right pedal, if you have a dab of grease, it's a good idea to install it on the threads. Again, get your pedal really tight. Put as much torque as you can in. The wrench should leave an indentation in the palm of your hand. Now, let's install the seat post. Paying attention to the minimum insertion line on your seat post, go ahead and install your seat and seat post so that you cannot see the minimum insertion line. We have additional videos on proper seat height. Once you've achieved your proper seat height, go ahead and tighten. We're using the 5mm wrench. With the seat on, let's grab your rear reflector. Using a household Phillips screwdriver, and with the wording up, go ahead and install the reflector. The Phillips screw should be on the drive side of the bike. Let's now check the stem for positioning and tightness. You might need to slightly loosen the 5mm Allen bolts that we tightened before. Center your stem with the tire and then tighten. You'll want between 8 and 9 Newton meters of torque, and you'll want to go back and forth between tightening these to get the proper tightness equal on both sides. With your basic assembly done, now stop and go through every nut and bolt on the bike, the ones we touched today and the ones we didn't. Ensure that everything on the bike is sound and tight. We recommend now that you have a bike shop safety check the bike before riding it. It's important that your wheels are checked for tension and true, as they often come out of tension and true during shipping. You should again tension your wheels after break-in, which is 100 to 200 miles, and we recommend that they're checked every 1,000 miles as well. We have additional videos on brake alignment and fit. If you have any additional questions, our contact information is on screen. We're available 365 days a year, and our quickest response is via text and email. We hope you love your new L-Train disc as much as we do.